Until just over a century ago, nobody knew that viruses actually existed. And it wasn't until the 1930s, with the invention of the electron microscope, it was actually possible to see them.
Viruses are up to 100 times smaller than bacteria and far, far simpler. Essentially no more than a tiny piece of genetic material surrounded by a protein coat. They're the most numerous biological entities on Earth, able to infect animals, plants, and even bacteria. But they cannot exist on their own. They need to invade a living cell and reprogram it to replicate.
Many scientists do not consider viruses to be living creatures, but that does not make them any less dangerous.
This is an influenza virus. It is a master of disguise, able to evade the body's immune system by constantly mutating. This particular one is perhaps the worst spree killer in history, the Spanish flu virus. Between 1918 and 1920, it is estimated to have killed 50 million people. That's 5 times as many as the industrialized slaughter of World War I. And then there's polio, which attacks the nervous system, preying particularly on the young. Iron lungs were needed because severely affected polio victims cannot breathe unaided. But there is one virus here at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta that has killed more than any other, and done so in the most grisly manner. It has killed Japanese emperors and European kings. It wiped out 90% of the Aztecs and brought down their empire. It was responsible for the deaths of at least 300 million people in the 20th century alone. It is, of course, smallpox.
Smallpox throughout all of history, going back at least 3,500 years, has been the most serious pestilence that man has endured. And the death rate was approximately 30%.
The smallpox virus is held in a level 4 containment lab, which is about as secure as it is possible to get. And this is as far as I am allowed to go. And granted what a horrible disease it is, it's about as close as I feel I really want to get.
Those unfortunate enough to catch this airborne disease were often hideously disfigured and suffered excruciating pain.
It will develop first as little tiny pimples, and then the individual will be covered with these pustular lesions, particularly in the face, the arms and the legs, but over the whole body. It's in the inside of the mouth, on the tongue, so that the individual has trouble drinking, and there's nothing really that you could do to ameliorate the pain.
There is no cure, and antibiotics are useless against it. Smallpox is a monster.
But a monster that no longer exists in the wild, because smallpox is the first disease in human history that we have managed to eradicate. So how do you get rid of a monster that you cannot kill?
The answer, as with Pasteur and Koch, came from a rural setting. It all began more than a century before anyone knew that viruses even existed.
As a young man, 18th century English doctor Edward Jenner had heard a milkmaid bragging that she would never get smallpox because she had previously been infected by cowpox. Cowpox is like a very mild form of smallpox. Symptoms include pustules and blisters on the hands. Now, Jenner was not the first doctor to realize that cowpox could protect you against smallpox. But he gets the glory because he did the critical experiment. One which these days would be regarded as so unethical that he would certainly be struck off and would probably end up in jail. What Jenner did is he got hold of an 8-year-old boy called James Phipps, and he deliberately infected James with some cowpox. The boy developed a fever. Then what Jenner did is he got a scalpel and he made a couple of slashes in the boy's arm, and then he rubbed in pus from a smallpox victim. Now, I have no idea what he told the boy or the boy's father, but Jenner certainly knew that if the experiment went wrong, the boy would go blind.